Guto Harri, who was Boris Johnson's Director of Communications, is now lifting the lid, not least on the claim that Boris Johnson apparently squared up to King Charles after Charles branded the government's Rwanda scheme appalling. Harry Cole is political editor of The Sun and joins me now. Hi, Harry.
Hi, Matt.
Have we had enough of raking over Boris Johnson's government?
I think it's only the beginning, really, isn't it?
Oh, no.
What I love about Guto Harri and his new podcast is he said he's getting his scores in early because, well, Boris is writing a book, so why can't he? Quite a remarkable first flurry of activity today from Guto Harri, because I was actually on one of those trips last year when we were all asking day after day while we were in Germany, just right at the tail end of Boris Johnson's administration, whether about this story about the Rwanda fight with Charles, and he denied it. I actually remember him denying it on the record. So it's interesting to see the other side of the story now and never believe anything till it's officially denied, eh?
Are you suggesting that Guto Harri might not have been the world's best spin doctor?
There is a feeling among some of Boris Johnson's longer-term supporters that perhaps, although he didn't quite bring the Prime Minister down, he certainly perhaps accelerated that downfall by a factor of a lot.
Well, there's certainly there's quite interesting. He's put out a clip to promote his podcast where he says, the long days and nights he spent behind that famous shiny black door. And I looked it up; it was about 150 days he was there between joining Number 10 when the grown-ups were in charge and then Boris Johnson having to resign.
Yes, what 150 days that was as well. I think we're going to see sort of more and more of this. Obviously, Anthony Seldon is the great sort of doyen of these books, and he's been putting the boot in for the last week. Obviously, Boris is writing his own book. Nadine Dorries is writing a book, which I suspect will be even livelier. And you wonder, really, I mean, there's a slightly pious justification for cashing in, which is, I had a first-hand view in history. But it doesn't feel like that long ago. But it certainly feels like first drafts and first blows, getting punches in early.
And how sort of useful is it? Because there's sort of in a world of everyone does a long read on a Saturday, and everyone does a long read on a Sunday, and there's constant twittering and
don't get me wrong. It's all great. It's all great fodder and all great gossip. And I'm going to listen to every word. No, my criticism isn't of the content. It's just slightly bemusing that just 6 months ago these people were official government persons, and they're basically openly admitting that they led us all up the garden path. Which it's almost like we kind of guessed that at the time, though.
And what about the impact this has on Boris Johnson and those people, we were hearing from some of them last week and over the weekend in the fallout of the local elections, who'd quite like Boris Johnson back? It probably doesn't help him, does it, if every last cough and spit of every good and bad decision...
I think it was what was made clear when Liz Truss went, and there was that brief weekend where was Boris going to come back? Did he have the numbers? This side of an election, I just cannot see it happening. And also, if Rishi Sunak wins the next election by hook or by crook or scrapes through, it's his party for the next 5 years. Then, if he then goes, if he doesn't win the election and then he gets, he stands down and there's an almighty Tory leadership election once again, does Boris Johnson really want to be putting in the hard yarns of 5 years in opposition when he can be paid £250,000 for an hour's speech? I severely doubt it.
Harry, always good to speak to you. Thank you for that. Harry Cole there, the political editor of The Sun, casting an eye over Guto Harri and his new podcast.